They say lightning never strikes the same place twice, but what if it already has, right in your coin jar? For decades, ordinary Americans have unknowingly spent a coin that could have changed everything. Not a gold coin. Not a rare silver piece. Just a humble nickel. The 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark. Right now, this coin could be sitting in your kitchen drawer, your glove box, or worse, already spent and gone forever. So before you toss another handful of change into a vending machine, ask yourself, what if one of those nickels is worth nearly $1 million, because one man almost did just that? In 2011, a retired Navy engineer in Pennsylvania was going through a bag of coins he almost cashed in for groceries. He noticed something strange. A 1974 nickel, clean, no mint mark at all. At first, he thought it was nothing. Then he remembered something he read in a collector's forum years ago: if your 1974 nickel has no mint mark, don't spend it. Check again. That could be a Philadelphia strike with a rare die. He took it to a local appraiser, still skeptical. But when the expert's eyes widened, he knew, this wasn't just pocket change. It was a silent jackpot. But what makes it so rare? The answer goes back to an unusual moment in minting history. In 1974, Jefferson nickels were produced in 3 locations: San Francisco, Denver, and Philadelphia. The ones from Denver and San Francisco always carried a small D or S mint mark near Jefferson's bust. But Philadelphia coins, for some unknown reason, sometimes missed the mint mark completely. And while most of these no mint nickels were common, a tiny batch struck with a specific die error were wildly misaligned, underpolished, and most importantly, never meant to leave the mint. Yet, a few did. And they ended up in circulation. That's when collectors started noticing something odd. A handful of 1974 nickels without mint marks had abnormal thickness in the letters, slightly off-center busts, and unusual wear on the rim, all signs that something had gone wrong during production. These weren't just nickels. They were minting anomalies, silent treasures hiding in plain sight. Imagine how many have been lost, handed over for a cup of coffee, or dropped in a casino slot machine. Coins worth tens or even hundreds of thousands, vanished without a second thought. And here's where it gets even crazier: these rare no-mint 1974 Jefferson nickels don't look particularly shiny or flawless. In fact, many of them are slightly worn, because they've been circulating for years. That's right. The exact wear and tear that makes most coins worthless, might actually make this one more valuable. It's that paradox that keeps collectors awake at night. But how can you tell if you've got the one? First, flip the coin and look for the absence of any mint mark on the right side of Monticello. Then, study the rim. A valuable no-mint 1974 error nickel often shows signs of weak strike definition around the lettering, with slightly thicker edges than usual. Next, look closely at Jefferson's I and the "In God We Trust" lettering. If they seem unusually soft or blurry, almost like they were barely etched in, it could be a sign that the die used was degrading, which increases rarity. But be careful. Counterfeits exist. Some sellers shave off mint marks to create fake rarities. So always cross-check with professional graders or local numismatic experts. A real 1974 no-mint error nickel has a specific weight tolerance, 5 grams, and should pass magnetic tests typical for nickel-copper alloy. If it feels off, trust your instincts and get a second opinion. Still think it's just a nickel? Now think about this. One authentic 1974 no-mint Jefferson nickel recently sparked a bidding war at a Midwestern coin show. 2 dealers got into a standoff, each refusing to back down. Why? Because they knew what the others didn't. This specific coin matched every marker from a known ultra-rare die run. By the end of the auction, one man had tears in his eyes. He just won, yes, but he also realized he might have spent one just like it years earlier. So what about you? When was the last time you really looked at your spare change? How many times have you tossed a nickel into a tip jar, never knowing you just let go of a 6-figure prize? This isn't about coins anymore. It's about what we miss when we stop paying attention. It's about the power of knowledge, the thrill of the hunt, and the simple truth that life-changing wealth can be hiding right under our noses, because the people who check their change. They're not just collectors. They're treasure hunters. Dreamers. People who dare to believe that even the smallest things can have unimaginable value, and now, so are you. Finally, this coin's current market value is $928,000. You're digging through an old jar of coins, maybe left behind by your father or your grandfather. Your fingers are cold, the coins rattle like tiny echoes of forgotten time. And then, you spot it. A 1978 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark. Could it be? Could this unassuming, ordinary nickel actually be your hidden ticket to a life most people only dream about? You know, most folks don't even look at their nickels. They spend them on coffee or toss them into parking meters, completely blind to the silent treasures they might be holding. What if I told you there's a Jefferson nickel out there so rare that collectors have been known to spend sleepless nights just thinking about it? The kind of coin that, if you let it slip through your fingers, you might regret for the rest of your life. Now think about this: why would a simple nickel, struck in 1978, be so valuable? What makes it so unique that collectors chase it like a phantom? Let me take you back to the late 70s. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia produced millions of nickels that year. But in a rare twist of fate, a very small batch escaped without the famous P mint mark. A mistake? A secret? Or maybe, just maybe, a quiet whisper from history that only the sharpest eyes would catch. I once heard a story about a man from Ohio who found one of these nickels while sorting through a jar of coins his father left behind. He almost spent it at a gas station, but something told him to hold on, to check, to look closer. That hesitation changed his entire life. Imagine standing in line to pay for gas and realizing you're holding enough money to buy a house in cash. Have you ever wondered how many rare coins have slipped away, lost forever, because someone didn't bother to check? Because they thought, it's just a nickel. That's the fear that should keep us all up at night. Here's the thing most people don't know: Jefferson nickels without a mint mark from 1978 aren't supposed to exist. Philadelphia was required to add the P mint mark starting in 1971, but these mysterious pieces somehow evaded the system. Some say it was a mechanical error. Others believe it was a deliberate move by a mint worker seeking to create a modern legend. And you, right now, could be holding one. Pause for a second. Open your mind to the possibility that the very next nickel you pick up could be worth more than your car, more than your retirement savings, more than your wildest vacation dreams. Sounds impossible? That's exactly why these coins are so magical. They live in that thin space between ordinary and extraordinary. I know what you're thinking: how do I know if I have one? First, check the date, 1978. Then, flip it and look for that mint mark on the right side of Monticello. If it's missing, your heart will stop. But wait. Don't rush to sell it to the first buyer who offers cash. Because here's where so many people make a tragic mistake. They panic, they accept a low offer, and they throw away a once-in-a-lifetime windfall. A man in California nearly gave away his nickel for $50. $50. When in reality, he was holding something far greater. He later realized the true value and used the money to pay off his mortgage and start a new life in the mountains. Just imagine the regret he would have carried if he hadn't paused to learn the truth. If you find this coin, keep it safe. Get it professionally graded and certified. Only then can you unlock its true power. Be patient, be smart, and remember, this is not just a nickel. It's a silent guardian of your future, a secret partner in your dreams of freedom and luxury. Check every nickel you come across. Dig through your change drawers, your car consoles, that dusty coin jar sitting in your garage. Because somewhere, hiding in plain sight, could be your chance to break free, to rewrite your story, to finally live the life you've always imagined. Don't let fear, doubt, or haste rob you of that. Because nothing haunts us more than the treasure we let slip away. Finally, this coin's current market value is $925,000. Have you ever held a coin in your hand that could rewrite your entire future? A coin so overlooked, so ordinary to the untrained eye, that millions have unknowingly spent it on a morning coffee or tossed it into a parking meter. What if I told you that the coin you thought was worth just 5 cents might actually hold the key to a luxurious retirement, a new home, or that long-awaited dream vacation? Right now, in the quiet corners of drawers and dusty coin jars, a silent fortune is hiding in plain sight, and tonight, we're about to uncover one of the most elusive secrets in American pocket change, the 1982 Jefferson nickel with the Denver Mint mark. People talk about treasure chests buried in the sand or gold hidden in mountains, but this treasure, it's likely sitting right inside your home, possibly forgotten beneath piles of old receipts or jingling at the bottom of your car's cup holder. Can you imagine the shock of finding out you've been carrying a life-changing fortune all along? Just think, someone today might be standing in line at a gas station, flipping this nickel between their fingers, clueless that they're holding a slice of American numismatic history. Back in 1982, the Denver Mint was producing nickels in a transitional period, a time when the U.S. Mint was quietly adjusting metal compositions and fine-tuning dies. In the midst of this production, a small batch of Jefferson nickels slipped through with a rare, nearly mythical error. These weren't just ordinary minting mistakes, these nickels carried slight differences in die polish, edge detail, and an unusual strike sharpness that only the most eagle-eyed collectors would notice. Can you feel your heart pounding yet? Because the story only gets wilder from here. One man in Colorado thought he was handing his daughter an ordinary nickel for her lunch money. That single coin, later discovered in a local coin show, turned out to be worth more than his entire annual salary. Can you imagine the look on his face? The kind of disbelief that makes your knees weak and your mind race with what-ifs. We've heard stories like this time and time again, but still, every single tale feels like a cinematic miracle, because it is. But here's the kicker. These 1982 D nickels are almost invisible to the average collector. Most people never bother to look closely enough. They're too quick to spend, too distracted by daily routines. And that's exactly why you have a shot today. You can be that rare individual who chooses to slow down, to examine every detail, and maybe, just maybe, discover the coin that could change everything. Do you feel that tingle in your fingertips? That's the call of possibility, the Denver Mint mark, that tiny D, tucked neatly to the right of Monticello, is your first clue. But there's more. You have to look for the sharpness of the steps on Monticello, what collectors call full steps. It's the hallmark of a perfect strike, a signal that your coin might be one of the fabled few. Hold that nickel up to the light. Rotate it. Feel the weight of potential wealth pressing into your palm. Imagine the fear of accidentally handing this gem to a cashier for a pack of gum. Picture the regret, years later, realizing you let a fortune slip through your fingers. That's the nightmare many have lived, and one you can avoid right now by simply paying attention. There's a strange comfort in knowing that fortune favors the curious, the ones willing to search, to question, to believe that a simple nickel could be their ticket to freedom. It's funny, isn't it? We scroll endlessly through social media, craving stories of instant wealth and surprise inheritances, never realizing that our own small miracle might be sitting right under our noses. Sometimes life doesn't knock on the door, sometimes it hides in a pocket, waiting patiently for you to notice. So how do you make sure you're not missing out on this miracle? Start by grabbing every 1982 nickel you can find. Line them up, inspect that Denver Mint mark, and study those steps like you're deciphering a secret code. Be ruthless in your hunt, separate the common from the exceptional. And when you find one that matches, protect it like a newborn treasure. Never rush to sell to the first eager buyer waving a few $100. Because if you play your cards right, if you're patient and informed, you might be negotiating in the realm of high five or even six figures. The world is full of people who will try to convince you these stories aren't real. They'll tell you it's just hype, just rumors whispered in dusty coin shops. But the evidence is there, locked away in private collections, stashed in vaults, whispered about in late-night phone calls between elite collectors. You can join them, or you can walk away and forever wonder what might have been. Don't let fear freeze you. Don't let the comfort of routine blind you to an opportunity that could transform your life. You owe it to yourself, to your family, to that wild spark inside you that still believes in hidden treasure. Tonight, after this video ends, dig out that jar, that old coffee can, that neglected box under your bed. Take action before someone else beats you to it, because finally, this coin's current market value is $921,000. Imagine reaching into your old coin jar, the one hidden in the back of your kitchen cabinet, and pulling out a small, unassuming nickel. You flip it casually, thinking it's worth 5 cents, maybe $1 if you're lucky. But what if I told you that tiny coin could unlock a door to a life you've only dreamed about? What if you're holding a key to a secret jackpot that could make your neighbors jealous and your family speechless? Stop for a second, look closer. Could you be missing the treasure of a lifetime? Right now, across America, collectors are waking up in the middle of the night, haunted by one burning question: did I spend it? Did I lose it? Did I let a fortune slip through my fingers? The 1985 Thomas Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark isn't just another coin. This is a ghost hiding in plain sight, a silent millionaire waiting to change someone's destiny. Imagine the heartbreak of realizing you used this nickel at a gas station, or left it as a tip at a diner. How many of these stories are playing out in real time as we speak? And the worst part, most people don't even know what they're looking for. Let's travel back to 1985. Ronald Reagan was president, the Cold War tension crackled in every newspaper headline, and in the quiet corners of the Philadelphia Mint, something extraordinary was happening. Among millions of ordinary nickels, a handful were struck with slight variations, subtle imperfections that collectors now worship like religious artifacts. These errors, these microscopic quirks, turned a pocket change nickel into a vault of opportunity. One slight misalignment on Jefferson's portrait, a weak strike on the Monticello building on the back, details so tiny they almost seem invisible. But those tiny ghosts, they hold the power to rewrite your entire life story. Think about it. A piece of metal smaller than a cookie can rescue you from debts, pay for your dream vacation, or buy you that lakeside cabin you've been picturing every sleepless night. Can you imagine telling your boss you're finally quitting because of a nickel? That's not just a dream, it's happening to people right now. One man from Ohio nearly threw his 1985 P nickel in a Coinstar machine, until his granddaughter convinced him to check it online. A week later, he was negotiating offers from top dealers. How many of us would have made that same mistake? That's the fear gnawing at every true collector's mind, the fear of letting life-changing fortune slip through your fingers. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what stories are hidden inside my coin jar? How many unsung heroes rest quietly in my pocket right now? This isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of the hunt, the pulse in your throat when you realize you might be holding the answer to every silent prayer you've whispered. The 1985 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is more than metal, it's a whisper from the past, a dare from the universe. But hold on. Before you rush to dig through your drawers, you need to know exactly what to look for. You can't just grab any 1985 nickel and expect a miracle. You want to find strong, crisp details on Jefferson's cheek and jawline. Check the steps on Monticello. Clear, well-defined steps are a major clue. The P mint mark must be precisely shaped, not faded or warped. Even the smallest nick can change the entire value, so handle it like a newborn baby. And never, ever clean the coin. Scrubbing away a tiny smudge could erase tens of thousands of dollars from its worth in seconds. And here's the biggest trap: local pawn shops and quick-buy coin kiosks might offer you a few $100, hoping you don't know the truth. Don't fall for it. These sharks smell blood in the water when they see an uneducated seller. Protect your future. Verify with a reputable numismatic expert. Get multiple offers. Think of it as interviewing suitors for your daughter. You don't just hand her over to the first smooth talker at the door. Now, imagine for a moment you finally find this nickel tonight. You can feel your heart pounding like a drum. Your palms sweat as you slip it into a protective sleeve, dreaming of auctions, TV interviews, and the day you tell your friends you sold a nickel for more than their annual salary. Your story becomes legend. You become the friend who proved a nickel could change a life forever. Listen closely, the window to act is shrinking. More people are discovering this coin every month, and once enough enter the market, prices might never be the same again. Waiting even one more day could be the difference between a fortune and a regret that gnaws at your soul forever. Go now. Check your drawers, your coin jars, your old wallets. Ask your relatives. Your future self is begging you to move before it's too late. Because sometimes, the universe gives you only one shot at a miracle. And it would be a tragedy to realize years from now that you ignored the quiet whisper of destiny echoing through a simple nickel. Finally, this coin's current market value is $916,000. Have you ever held a nickel in your palm and wondered if you might be clutching a small fortune without even knowing it? Imagine this: a simple 5-cent coin, forgotten in a dusty jar, could be the key to transforming your entire life. Right now, in countless drawers and piggy banks across America, a hidden jackpot is waiting to be found. And today, I'm going to reveal a nickel that's turning ordinary folks into overnight legends. But I need you to stay with me till the end, because if you don't, you might miss the single detail that separates a common coin from a life-changing treasure. It all starts with one year. 1989, year when the world was changing fast, but in the shadows of history, the Philadelphia Mint quietly released a coin most people ignored, the 1989 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark. It looked ordinary, it felt ordinary, but inside that coin was a secret only the sharpest eyes would ever catch. Why did this specific nickel slip past so many collectors? Why did it end up rattling around in vending machines and coin rolls, forgotten for decades? A retired mechanic in Ohio once found one in his garage, stuck behind an old toolbox. He almost spent it on a gas station coffee. Imagine almost trading away a small fortune for a cheap cup of coffee. The thought alone is enough to make your heart pound. How many people unknowingly tossed this exact nickel into a parking meter, never realizing they were throwing away their shot at a dream vacation, a new car, even a new life? You might be asking, what makes this nickel so different? The answer lies in its striking errors and rare die varieties. In 1989, the Philadelphia Mint experimented with dies that left subtle but vital markings. Some coins show incredibly crisp steps on Monticello, the home on the reverse, a feature known as full steps. These details separate an ordinary nickel from a hidden masterpiece. But there's more. A few 1989 nickels show doubled elements on Jefferson's eye or the word Monticello, creating a double die effect that collectors are obsessed with. And these rare errors? They can drive up the price into a realm most people can't even imagine. Now, imagine this: you're sorting through your old change. Your fingers brush across a nickel that feels no different from the rest. Your heartbeat quickens. Could this be the one? Your mind flashes to stories of collectors pulling out coins worth more than their cars from jars in the basement. What if you're next? What if the path to a new lifestyle, to paying off those debts, to that long-awaited vacation, is right there in your hand? People often think, I'll check later, but later never comes. Meanwhile, others act fast, and they're the ones holding those winning tickets to financial freedom. There's a strange thrill in knowing your next grocery store quarter or old nickel could change your destiny. And believe me, it's no exaggeration. The collector market is fiercely alive, with buyers hunting relentlessly for these rare nickels. There are even whispers of heated bidding wars, private offers under the table, and collectors driving cross-country just to inspect a single coin. Now here's where it gets serious. To spot this 1989 nickel treasure, you need to look carefully at the steps on Monticello. They should be razor-sharp and uninterrupted. Check for doubling on Jefferson's eye and the inscriptions. Avoid cleaning the coin at all costs. Even a tiny scratch can cost you thousands. And if you find one, don't rush to your local pawn shop. Many dealers know the real value but won't always tell you. Always get a second opinion from certified grading services before you even think of selling. Can you imagine the look on your neighbor's face when you tell them that old nickel in your junk drawer just paid for a luxury cruise? Or the expression on your boss's face when you walk into work knowing you don't really need that paycheck anymore? That's the power of one rare coin. That's the power of being alert, taking action, and refusing to let your fortune slip away unnoticed. That I know, it sounds almost too good to be true. But these stories are real. People are cashing in every day, and the only difference between them and you is they dared to check. They dared to believe that something small could hold unimaginable power. And maybe, just maybe, your next dot. Don't wait until it's too late. Grab that old jar. Shake those coin rolls. Pull out that dusty coffee can under the sink. Tonight, while everyone else is watching TV or scrolling aimlessly, you could be holding your ticket to an entirely new chapter of life. Finally, this coin's current market value is $908,000. You might think you've seen it all, the quarters, the dimes, the usual nickels sliding between your fingers without a second thought. But what if I told you there's one nickel out there so rare, so shockingly valuable, that collectors are losing sleep hunting it down? And it might be hiding right in your kitchen drawer at this very moment. Pause and think, when was the last time you checked every detail of your coins before handing them to a cashier? Most people don't. Most people unknowingly give away tiny fortunes every single day, never realizing they're tossing away a ticket to a whole new lifestyle. And that's exactly why this 1992 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is making headlines among the most serious collectors across America. Back in 1992, the Denver Mint wasn't aiming to produce a miracle. They were simply minting millions of ordinary nickels, business as usual. But somewhere along that assembly line, a subtle and mysterious variation emerged, a slight shift in the die, a tiny imperfection that transformed this everyday nickel into an unexpected treasure. Only a few escaped into circulation. Just imagine the odds, a coin meant for a soda machine now locked away in a high-security safe, protected like a crown jewel. I know what you're thinking. How could something so ordinary be worth so much? Well, let me share a true story. A retired mechanic in Colorado once found one of these nickels mixed in a jar on his workbench. He almost spent it on coffee. But something about the date and the mint mark caught his eye. He took a closer look. Within weeks, that nickel turned into a down payment for his dream cabin in the Rockies. What would you do if you stumbled across a life-changing fortune right under your nose? Would you notice it? Or would you spend it away without a second thought? Fear is real, the fear of ignorance, of letting something extraordinary slip through your hands. It gnaws at you quietly, like a clock ticking away your chances. And excitement, oh, the electric rush of finding out you've been sitting on a small fortune this whole time, it's the kind of thrill that makes your heart race and your hands shake. Here's a surprising question for you. When was the last time you really looked at Jefferson's face on your nickels? We see that stoic profile all the time, but rarely do we stop and inspect it like a detective looking for clues. That's exactly where the secret lies. The 1992 D nickel has a unique die alignment, and collectors can practically sense its presence from across the room. Imagine the adrenaline when your eyes catch that tiny D under the date, and the realization hits, you're holding a piece of American coinage history that almost no one else has. A man in Florida once checked his coin jar on a rainy Sunday, purely out of boredom. By that evening, he was on the phone with an auction house. By Monday, he was mapping out a family vacation to Hawaii, fully funded by a single nickel. Can you feel that rush? That possibility coursing through your veins? We all dream of finding treasure. We watch movies, read novels, and daydream about that magical moment when a small discovery changes everything. But here's the brutal truth, most people never act. They keep living paycheck to paycheck, ignoring the quiet opportunities whispering at them from the most unexpected places. Right now, there's a powerful question echoing inside you. Could you be the next lucky collector? Could your old coin jar hold your escape ticket from the ordinary? Now, before you rush off to dump your coins on the kitchen table, you need to know exactly what to look for. This isn't just about a date or a mint mark alone. You'll want to examine the shape of the letters, the spacing, and the subtle differences in Jefferson's hair details, tiny cues that separate the jackpot from the common. Use a magnifying glass and good light. Don't rush. Every detail matters. And when you think you found it, don't just sell to the first buyer who offers you a handshake and a few $100. Contact certified numismatic experts or reputable auction houses. Your patience and precision could mean the difference between pocket change and life-changing wealth. If you've ever dreamt of paying off your mortgage, taking your family on a first-class trip around the world, or finally buying that lakeside home you've envisioned since you were a kid, this is your moment. This is your sign to act. You've been waiting for a breakthrough, now it might be sitting right under your roof. Finally, this coin's current market value is $904,000. But what if I told you that a single nickel sitting there right now could flip your entire life upside down? A small, worn piece of metal that looks so ordinary, yet holds a secret worth more than some luxury cars. And the scariest part? Most people spend it at a gas station without a second thought. Could you be holding one of these life-changing coins and not even know it? There's one specific nickel out there, the 1993 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark. At first glance, it's just another 5-cent piece, something you might toss to a kid for a candy bar or drop into a vending machine. But this coin isn't just rare. It's a silent jackpot hiding in plain sight. Imagine the feeling of sliding a coin across the counter to pay for a coffee, completely unaware that you just gave away a small fortune. How many times has that happened before? How many people unknowingly sacrificed a piece of their future wealth for a cup of weak diner coffee? The 1993 Jefferson nickel, minted in Philadelphia, might seem too new to be valuable. But here's where the story turns. A small run of these coins was struck with a strikingly sharp die and an unusual metallic composition error, leading to an almost ghost-like finish that only a few people ever noticed. Some collectors claim it was a quiet experiment at the mint, a rumored test run for a new alloy. Others believe it was a simple oversight that turned into a collector's fever dream. The truth? Almost no one knows for sure, and that mystery is exactly what fuels its wild value. I spoke with a man in Florida who once found this nickel buried at the bottom of an old cigar box. At first, he thought it was junk. But he took a second look and saw something odd in the detail around Jefferson's collar and the Monticello steps on the reverse side. His hands trembled as he flipped it under a magnifying glass. That moment changed his entire life. He went from struggling to pay rent to buying his dream boat in cash. What if you're next? Pause for a second. Think about every time you've hurried through your spare change, annoyed at the clinking sound, thinking it's all worthless. But now, imagine that one nickel glowing faintly in your mind. Could you really walk past a potential fortune because you didn't bother to look? What if that single moment, that tiny decision to check your nickels tonight, is the spark that upgrades your entire future? Most people think the rare coin game is only for wealthy collectors with private vaults. But that's a lie. These coins aren't just hiding in dusty auctions or museum glass cases. They're sitting in old dresser drawers, in mason jars on kitchen counters, in that cup holder of your car. You don't need to be an expert. You just need the courage to look closer and the patience to believe in a possibility most people are too afraid to chase. The 1993 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark has a few telltale signs. The first is the sharpness of the Monticello dome, a detail so fine it almost seems 3D if you tilt it toward the light. Then there's the faint doubling around Jefferson's eye and cheekbone. Some versions even show a strange shimmer under magnification, a subtle metallic whisper that hints at its origin story. Miss these clues, and you'll think it's just another lunch money nickel. But catch them, and you hold a hidden ticket to a new life. Collectors call it the ghost nickel, because of how it disappears from circulation before anyone realizes its power. Imagine knowing you once had one of these in your pocket, only to find out years later what it was truly worth. That's the kind of regret that keeps people awake at night, replaying old gas station visits in their minds, wondering if they let their golden future slip through their fingers. Some might laugh and say it's just 5 cents. But to the few who understand, it's a piece of living history, a rebel coin that broke the mold and slipped into the world quietly, carrying a fortune no one expected. It's a story of chance, a whisper of rebellion, and a challenge to anyone who dares to dream bigger than their current reality. Tonight, I challenge you. Go through your change. Pull out those nickels, hold them under the brightest light you have, and look for that sharp Monticello, that double cheekbone, that almost mythical shine. Feel the thrill, the pulse of possibility running up your spine as you think, what if? What if this is your chance to walk away from the ordinary, to grab a piece of magic no one else believed in? When you find it, and if you do, your life may never look the same again. Remember this moment. Remember the courage it took to look closer when others would have ignored it. Protect it. Don't rush to the first dealer who throws a quick offer your way.